Hi, Doug Casey here, Down to Earth Golf. This video is more about path and a couple things I want you to be able to look for, self-diagnose if possible, and then hopefully fix. So path is just what path or what direction is the center of gravity of that club head traveling. That's all we're talking about. That's what we measure when we measure it with Doppler radar, with video. We measure the path, the center of gravity of that club head. And you know, in numbers, usually these days we talk about the path either zeroing out, which means going straight towards the target, that alignment stick, or coming from the inside. And you'll usually hear numbers like 3 degrees from the inside, or right to left in this case, or 5 degrees or 8 degrees, whatever it is, or coming from the outside, or left to right in this case. You know, again, 3 degrees, 8 degrees, 12 degrees, who knows. So those are the path numbers. And you might want to know what your path is and if it's causing your ball flight. Remember, path usually causes curvature problems. So if you're hooking the ball, or pushing the ball, or you're slicing the ball and or pulling the ball, then you probably have a path issue. Okay? So, what do I want you to look for? Well, two main things. One is, where is your lead arm coming down? So my left arm is a right-handed golfer. We call that lead arm depth. This would be really deep. This would have no lead arm depth. If you're videoing yourself, when your left arm, or lead arm, sorry, is parallel to the ground, you'd like to see it inside that lead shoulder for sure. Okay, so if it's parallel to your lead shoulder at that point, or outside that, you're probably going to come from the outside in. If you're way inside here, that's going to cause inside out. So you'd like to know where that is. You can see that pretty easy on video. The other thing that could cause your path to be out is, I want you to notice where that shaft of that club is and where that club head is. Okay? So again, if that lead arm is parallel to the ground, the shaft of that club should be basically, if you extended it down, pointing at your target line. That's where the shaft of that club should be pointing. Now if it's here, probably going to be coming from the inside. If it's here, probably going to come from the outside. And you can see that on the way down. If I'm here, where that club is parallel to the ground here, it should be basically pointing at the target. If it's out here, probably going to come from the outside. If it's in here, probably going to come from the inside. So you can see that all that is wrist conditions. So basically you can have two main reasons to get your path way off. Where your arms are coming down and what conditions your wrists are in. You want to know, if you have a problem, what it is for you. If your tendency is to come from the outside in, okay, which is the majority of golfers, I want you to know, is it because of where your lead arm is in the downswing, or is it because of your wrist conditions on the downswing? Let's talk about lead arm first. If your lead arm tends to get outside, I would usually, the first culprit I would look at is your sequence. And what I mean by that is, when you change direction in your transition, do your shoulders move first, or your arms move first, and that throws your lead arm out there? Or what we want to have happen is that weight to go first, and that lead arm to stay in good depth there. So that's what I would look at if your lead arm is, that's the first thing I would look at, if your lead arm depth is not right. Second thing I would look at is maybe even the top of your backswing. Do you get your lead arm way up here? Because that's going to be tough to really get back down to there. You can do it, but if you tend to have your lead arm too far outside, you can look at that, top of your backswing. Is it there? Or where we want it, which is basically your hands over your trail shoulder. The last one I would look at, okay, so you got so this is good, your sequence is good. Okay, do you just from here down sometimes go and then dip down that way and throw that lead arm out? Those are the three most common things to throw their arms off path. Wrist conditions, I've talked about in a couple different videos. We want that lead wrist to be either flat or even bowed coming down. And if you have problems slicing the ball and doing that, I would even recommend getting that lead wrist bowed on the way down, in that position there. I like the way a guy named Joseph Mayo describes. He says, if you take your hand here, that's kind of like tightening a screwdriver there, or sorry, loosening a screwdriver. That's the position or the feel you want to get for that lead wrist in the downswing. If you do that, it's hard to get it out there. I really have to push with that right hand to get it out there. Now, after saying that, a lot of people do have this problem, that have the club out here. So their lead arm's in good position, but the club is out here. They're actually pushing with their right hand, especially with that right index finger. See if you're doing that. See if you can feel yourself actually pushing with your right hand and right wrist and right forearm muscles as you come down. You don't want to do that. So take some left hand only swings. See what happens there. Maybe put that on video, see if that club comes from the right path with a left hand only swing or lead arm only swing. And then do it with your trail hand or your right hand if you're right-handed, and see what happens there. If you can get to come from that good path still, or if as soon as you go to that trail hand, if it goes and does that. Those are some good little self-diagnosing tips. All right, good golfing.